What's going on, guys? This is Jeff with Philippines Through My Eyes. I want to encourage you before we start this video to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, shoot this video over on your social media, share it, and so that others can see this, so I can be a blessing to more people, so the algorithms could get running and other people can see this video. Well, today I'd really like to talk about my life story, and I believe that this video should be broken into probably at least 3 if not 4 different videos, just for the sake of getting through it, and also the ability to just consume a life story. I want to take it into life stages or parts of my life. Today we're going to really start with the beginning. In the beginning, I was born in California. I was California born and raised. I was born in Fresno, California, but raised in the Bay Area for most of my life. I was born to 2 teenage parents who were drug addicts, abusive. I was their second child, and their relationship was toxic, unhealthy, very, very, very unhealthy. And when I was about 2 years old, they split up, and that was the last time I'd see my dad for several years. And my mom, she just kind of went from man to man, and that was kind of her routine. And she ends up meeting a man about 6 months later after her and my dad break up, and they get married rather quickly. And I really truly believe they were in love. They were head over heels in love with each other, but drugs were in the middle of everything. And so this relationship, like every other, was controlled and consumed and manipulated by the abuse of substance. And really, this was the theme of my life and what I'd seen around me, that life became conditional because of things that replaced the love that should have been for us, or that we should have had for others. And so at a young age, we seen this. We had always seen people over at the house partying and drug abuse. We recognized it. My favorite smell as a kid, believe it or not, was the smell of pot. I can remember it from the youngest age, just saying I really enjoyed that smell. And they were meth addicts as well as just heavy drinkers and partiers. But my mom and my stepdad were together, and I lived with them till I was about 6 years old, when my mom really spun in out of control on the drugs. She had my sister from my stepdad, and they had her, and then she just went down a deep, dark path of just drugs. Heavy on meth, and just with different people, different partying scenes, and she ends up cheating on my stepdad with another man. And I can remember this vividly. My stepdad, after we knew that they were together physically, her and this other man, and I'm not sure if there was other men between, but we knew about this man, and she ended up in a very crazy triangle, and them fighting in the house and all this stuff. But at this point, my mom went down an even darker path. My stepdad was kind of out of the picture, and her and this new boyfriend were just partying hard. I mean, hard. And so hard that they forgot about us on many occasions. We would not go to school, and then when we would go to school, they would forget us at school. And well, after several days of that, or several weeks, maybe months, I'm not really sure the specifics on that, but in the first grade, I remember Child Protective Services being called after about 3 days of my mom forgetting us till 4 or 5 in the evening, when school probably got out around 2. And so I just remember it being dark when we get picked up. And so after the 3rd day of that, my Child Protective Services were called. We get put in some home, and from that point, we kind of went into this new stage where we ended up, after that Child Protective Services, we ended up in emergency housing with my mom. And when I think back on it, my mom was just a queen of manipulation. She somehow got us back. She somehow convinced them that it wasn't her, but somebody else, the boyfriend, who prevented her from getting us. And we ended up in this emergency housing. But then the man came into the house and they ended up in the same situation. They forgot about us. We wouldn't eat for days on end. It felt like we would be forgot about. They would be drinking and drugs, and they would be in the room, and you would just hear, sex. And it wasn't because they were trying to be abusive to us. It was just the drugs took over. Substance became the number one priority. And so we went from that point to not going to school for several months. And then Child Protective Services were notified once again. And we went from there into several family members' houses, and we bounced around, but we were just a mess, mentally just messed up. And we went from several family members' houses and then back enrolled in school after about probably 4 months off of school. And I didn't know how to read really at this point or anything like that. And we go into a new school system and finish out the year for maybe another month or so. And then from there, somehow we get back into the court system. And I'm saying somehow because really I don't know the events going up to that, but I just remember we ended up back in court. And my dad was now kind of back in our life in the sense of he wanted to have custody of us. And really, he was very praised for this because, as you could imagine, a single man trying to take his two sons and raise them by himself was rather noble. And, that's very commendable. But the same things happened there. It was abuse, it was drugs, it was physical abuse, emotional abuse. It was just, you name it, we were dealing with it, what we were beat with, how we were talked to, how we were dragged around and just abused. And that was just a rather difficult thing. I could remember on several occasions just the blackouts and stuff that would occur. But then from there, second grade and fourth grade, we ended up moving in with his girlfriend who had kids. And the funny thing is, he had probably had 8 girlfriends between that. He'd get them for a few months. And then from there, they would end up realizing how serious his drug addiction was. And it wasn't just like a recreational thing. And so they would end up breaking up with him. And then it would go to the next girl. And to the next one. He didn't have trouble getting girls. He had trouble keeping them because of his addictions. But we ended up with this lady, and we moved in with her and her 2 kids. And what seemed like it was going to be a great situation really turned even for the worst. My dad's addictions really kind of went into hiding at this point, and his addictions were in hiding, but his abuse was increasing. And it was very much on the emotional side. We were treated as the stepchildren, if you will. We were treated as second-class citizens in the home. We were not allotted the same things. We were not loved the same way. We were not gifted the same way. Their pictures would be on the wall. Ours would not. Their kids would get school clothes, ours we would not. It was just a lot of manipulation that made us second class in that way. And the punishments were different. Her kids would get punished for one way, and we would get punished 4 times worse with physical, emotional abuse, and then hard labor as well on top of that. But that was just life. And we lived with her until I was 15 years old. But at 13, my dad took a turn for the worse. He had a good job at one time, and he was really a functioning addict. And from that point, he lost the job because of a change in location. I think he didn't see how he could keep up with his lifestyle as well as his work, moving to a new location without that dual income. And so he decided instead of breaking up with her and moving us down below, that he would just stay and attempt to find another job. But at that point, he just really spiraled down a dark path of meth. Perhaps it was because of depression from losing the job, or um, whatever else, but he sure enough went into his dark hole. I can remember him turning the garage door knob around so you can lock it from the inside of the garage, and lock out the people from inside the house. A lot of weird things like that, but just kept him separated from us, and just heavy on drugs. You couldn't open the garage door or anything like that because he was in there doing his thing. And that was that way for probably about 2 years. And at that point, the abuse just was increasing when he would come out. He was extremely paranoid. The food situation in the house really got very weird. Her and his girlfriend and her kids would eat out a lot, and there wouldn't really be much in the house. Besides, I remember citrus fruits and ice cream. And I believe that was as he was coming off drugs. Those were the things he craved. And so that's what he would have in the house. But from there, we ended up getting into several fights, fist fights, police called, and the relationship just really went down a hindered place. My brother had graduated and moved away, but it was severed in all ways, my dad. And I considered trying to move back with my mother, but I realized that at her house there was no structure. We were doing drugs with her. We were smoking and drinking, even at a very young age. So I couldn't move back with her, and I just didn't know what to do. And so I just kind of wrote it out. And at 15 years old, his girlfriend called the police, ratted on him for the meth lab and everything else that went into that. And I ended up in the shower one morning, and nobody was at the house but me, and I thought that was rather eerie. Looking back, it was obvious that she had left with the kids very early, because the cops were called. And I'm in the shower getting ready for school, and my my front door, I hear it getting banged on, and then I hear it opened, you know, broken in, and then I hear several footsteps, and I'm like, well, who in the world? Well, maybe it's her and the kids. So I just didn't really know. But then I hear the bathroom door banged on and then kicked in, and it was the police department and the SWAT team and everybody else who was with them grabbed me out of the shower, threw me on the ground. There was no real searching me because I was naked, but they just wanted to identify and control the house and the perimeter. And I was only one in the house at the time, so that wasn't really a problem. They ended up allowing me, after a little bit of time, to put my clothes on, and they were questioning me after I put my clothes on. And that was kind of a unique point at this point, because I knew, just like several times before, my life, or this stage of my life, was over. I knew that I would never return back to this house. I knew that all of my stuff at this house, even though it was second-class stuff, it was still my stuff, was no longer going to be my stuff. It was no longer going to be my life, and I would have to start over. I didn't know how that was going to work, but I knew that it was going to be this way. So I get interviewed, I get dressed, and I could see out the front window of the house and living room. My dad, they found him somewhere, and they arrested him and put him in front of the house. I'm looking through the house, and there's rice, a bag of rice, or I'm sorry, a bag of flour cut open, and flour everywhere. Anything in the cabinets that could be opened were opened. The ice cream was opened and cut open because they were trying to see if he was hiding anything anywhere. And so he's arrested. He's outside. Kids from my school are walking by, walking to school, and they see him. And now I'm kind of put in this predicament. I don't know where I'm going. And I asked the police that. I said, where do I go after I go to school? And they said, I don't know. They didn't really know what to say. And because this was my home, but this was not going to be my home anymore, and they didn't really know what to say at that point. But I convinced them to let me go to school after I interviewed and everything else. And then I went to school, and I went straight to my football coach's office. He was one of the campus security guards, along with the campus police officer. And I went in there and I just kind of told him, hey, my dad got arrested. There's a meth lab, there was abuse, all this other stuff, and they arrested him. But I don't know where to go. And the cop was like, oh, I heard that over the radio. I don't know where you're supposed to go. I'll try to get you some information. And so the whole day, I had heard nothing. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where my life would go from this point. But uniquely, right before my sixth period, right before my last period, they called me into his office, the police officer's office, and my coach's office. And they called me in there, and they said, hey, we got a phone call. We kind of notified the office, like, hey, we want to handle this. And they said, we got the call, or they got the call, they told us, and so we want to inform you that your grandmother's friend is going to pick you up. And just mentioned the lady's name, and I knew who she was. And I thought it was a little unique, but I figured my grandma's got to be the one that's going to take me, because my dad's not here, and there's nobody else who lives in the area. So surely my grandma's going to take me, and that makes sense. And I don't know why I didn't think of that earlier in the day, but her friend must be picking me up because of her work schedule. And to my surprise, when she picks me up after school, she tells me that I'm not going to live with my grandma. I'm actually going to live with her. And the very odd thing about this is my grandma lives across the street from this lady. But yet for some reason, I'm going to be staying with her instead of my grandma, even though my grandma had space. And for whatever reason, that just rung hard in my mind. Like, that, am I that much of an inconvenience that you're going to call your friend to have me live with her instead of yourself, even though you have a better job and just as much of a capability to take me in? But I'll digress on that. That was just another one of those things where I felt conditional love. It was inconvenient for her, so probably not the best situation for me. And so she decided not to have me. But there I am, and now I'm living with a lady who I've probably met 5 times, and she's a super nice lady. But that's how it was. So I'm going to conclude here. I'm 15 years old. I'm living with my grandma's friend. And this is where I'm at in my life. My dad is arrested. Everything else is going on. My mom is off. She's doing her own thing, 3 hours away from where I was. And so that's where I'm going to conclude today on part 1 of my life story and how I became the guy who's 33 or 34 about to go move to the Philippines. If you have any questions about my life so far, or where I've gone, or how I've been, I want to encourage you to like, comment, subscribe, make those comments on there. Ask me some questions. I'd love to answer your questions. Hit the notification bell so you can find out about part 2, what'll be coming up shortly, as well as any future videos about the Philippines, about expats, about passport bros, about living overseas, and advice that I'd like to give you. But thank you so much for watching through this video and hearing about the early years of my life and how I came to right now. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button one more time. I want to tell you, hit it. It's free, and you will get the notifications for the future. Thank you so much. This is Jeff with Philippines Through My Eyes. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.